So today let's focus on rather than individual cancers, let's focus on the list of cancers that are quite common in our country. In fact, some are very common in our department. So I'll just show you the statistics in our department before going for further discussion. All right, so this is our departmental statistics. So let me just go to the, so this is the total number of registrations that are happening currently. So different types of cancers. So let us focus only on the first table. So let me focus for the entire 2020 last year. All right. So last year was a COVID year. So our registrations usually touch 2,500 to 3,000 per year, which means there will be 2,500 to 3,000 patients registering in our department for some kind of, for all kinds of cancer care. So there were 1,000 less in the last year because of the COVID. So we were only running at 50% capacity. So in this, if you could see the most common cancer, let me zoom in to show you the most common cancer. All right. Okay. So do you see the list of cancers here? So what's the most common cancer in the last year? So can Hubaid tell me the most common cancer that you see on top? This is the total number of registrations that happened in 2020. Year 2020. All right.
Cancer.
Yeah, breast cancer is the most common cancer. We had 243 patients of breast cancer. And then comes cervical cancer. Cervix cancer is basically the uterine part. A part of the uterus, tip of the uterus is called as, lower tip of the uterus is called as cervix. So we call it a cervical cancer. So that's a female malignancy. So if you see the most common top two malignancies are female malignancies. Cancers that are happening in the females, most common cancers. So what about the males? Males predominantly have head and neck region cancers. The head and neck region actually is a complex mess. If you see, let me just open up a photo. Head and neck region. Head and neck region. So obviously, head and neck region shows a lot of stuff. So that shows the oral cavity. It shows multiple other areas. I'm just getting a call now. Just give me 2 seconds. Just briefly look at the structures, or even I can even show you a better picture. Briefly look at the structures while I'm on the call. All right. So what do you see? What are the structures in the head and neck region predominantly? This is mostly the mouth part. Head and neck region can also comprise of other regions. So if you look at the other regions, let's just go to the other region. Go to, yeah, full size image. So head and neck region is basically, let me draw it on a paper. Okay. This is the nose region. This is the nose region. This is the mouth region, whatever you see. This is behind the nose. And this is behind the mouth. And this is in the throat. So we have nose section, we have the mouth section, we have the throat section, and we have behind. In fact, this is the upper part of the throat. Let's say this is the lower part of the throat and the upper part, or rather, let's not call it as upper, let us call this mid. Let's say this entire part forms the throat, out of which this top one is upper, mid, lower throat, upper throat. We can have special names for these upper, mid, and lower throat. So we can call it as nasopharynx. Since it is behind nose, throat is nothing but pharynx. The technical name is called as pharynx. All right. So upper nasopharynx, upper throat is called as upper or nasopharynx. Mid one is called as oropharynx, since it is behind the oral cavity or the mouth. Lower one is behind the larynx, and we don't call it as any larynx because we are already naming this air pipe, wind pipe that is there as larynx. We will call this as hypopharynx. Hypo means lower. So we'll just call it as hypopharynx. So what are the different parts if you want to enlist? Let me just erase all this stuff. So we'll have oral cavity, we have nasal cavity, we can call nose or nasal cavity. We got nasopharynx here, we got oropharynx here, and we got hypopharynx here. So this one has got two pipes, one is the foot pipe and one is the air pipe. So the windpipe is called as larynx, the foot pipe in the throat is called, in the neck is called as hypopharynx. These are different parts of the head and neck region. So if you pick up cancers occurring from individual regions, we can call tongue cancer. Within the mouth, we can also call lip cancer. Cancer can happen from the lip. Cancers can happen from the nose. So that's just nasal cancer. Cancers can happen from the nasopharynx. That can be called nasopharynx cancer. Oropharynx has also got multiple structures, tonsils, base of tongue, so many others. We'll just call it as oropharyngeal cancer. Hypopharynx has got the pharyngeal walls. So we can have pharyngeal wall cancer, all those things. We can still again call it as hypopharyngeal cancers. Hypopharyngeal cancers. Similarly, the windpipe cancers, we can call them as laryngeal cancers. So you got different cancers of this region. So there is not one single organ. Whenever we call head and neck, we are calling it by we're not a specific single name. We are taking the entire group of cancers into what is called as head and neck region cancers. So let's go back to the statistics and then see what's the point given there. Shall I erase the annotation? Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to our statistics and see. So whatever structures we discussed in head and neck, if you try to find them out here, you can see buccal mucosa. Buccal mucosa is nothing but the inner side of our mouth. And we see tongue over here. And then further down the line, we keep going, we see hypopharynx here. So in the top 10 list of cancers, you could see hypopharynx, we could see tongue, we could see buccal mucosa. You put all these things together, that will also come up to somewhere around. If you go down for all the other lower alveolus, all the throat, nasopharynx, everything, that will also reach somewhere around 200. So in general, in our department specifically, 1/3 of our cancers are belonging to breast cancer. 1/3 of our remaining cancers are belonging to head and neck region cancers. 1/3 of our other group of cancers belong to cervical cancers. So which means 2/3 of our cancers are actually cancers in the females. So majority of our population is female. So this is also shown in the distribution of female and male patients. You see, we are getting 800, we have got 831 patients, female patients last year when compared to only 646 male patients. There are some recorded as others, but most probably should be a clerical error, or sometimes it could be the third gender. 1 or 2 third genders would have been registered. But I have checked the records, it's mostly a clerical error, or record clerk has done some mistakes in entering the gender, or you might have not known the gender, you just mentioned it as others. Fine. But it's also a possibility we might get a third gender, so don't discount on that. So what I mean to say is basically we are getting more female patients in our department. So it doesn't mean that only female patients are getting cancer and not male patients. Of course, male patients are also equally getting cancers, but just that they don't come to our department for specific reason, or they don't come to JIPMER, they go to somewhere else. Okay, so within our department, we can see a lot of female patients, and accordingly, we see a lot of female cancers. We see breast cancers, we see cervix cancers. So, and then buccal mucosa and most of the other cancers can happen in both females and males. So we don't have specifically which group has got what. All right. So this is just our own department. So this is only during the COVID era. Let's see what had happened before the COVID. So in 2019, there was no COVID. So in 2019, the total number of patients, as you can see, is 243 patients. So total of 2,343 patients we got. All right. So if you see the number of patients in the order of distribution, in the order of commonality, let's say, first one comes in the cervix. So 2019 cervical cancers were the number 1 cancers. We had 422 patients coming in. Breast cancers were number 2 cancers, and again buccal mucosa. So these 3 ranks are almost going up and down in the first 3. So the top 3 cancers we could say cervix, breast, and most of the head and neck region, which is tongue and buccal mucosa, are coming in the top. Let's just go back to 2018 and see what's in the top. Okay, so we got this one in 2018. Again, 2018 cervix is number 1, breast is number 2, buccal mucosa is number 3. The tongue keeps hovering around number 4, number 5, all those. But then in general, all the head and neck cancers are grouped to, when put together, they will be equivalent to cervical cancer, breast cancers, or cervical cancers in numbers. All right. So this is just to give you a picture of which cancer is most common in our setup. What are the main most common group of cancers that we are getting in our setup? Let's just go to other information. Let's say you want to see what is the cancers that's common in the entire world. Okay, so let's just see cancer atlas. That'll be better. So this website canceratlas.cancer.org gives the details of cancers in almost all the countries of the world, most important countries of the world. All right. So let's just discuss, go by topic, explore the data. Let's explore it by countries, or what do we say? Yeah. Let's go to Asia, India. Yeah. So what's in India? India. So what do we see in India? What is the information we are looking at? We are going to look at the cancer in rank as leading cause of death. So what kind of cancers? So leading to death, or let's say most common cancers. Okay, cancer patients. So what are the most common cancers in each country? So the pink one is the breast cancer. So pink one is the most common in India also. It's also there in most parts of the world. So breast cancer remains the #1 cancer in most parts of the world. Cervix cancer, you see, the cervix cancer is still seen in some part of India or Burma or all those stuff. But predominantly in India, we get breast cancer as #1. So lung cancer is #1 and probably in Japan or China and some parts of China. Liver cancer is also common in Mongolia. I mean, it's common in Mongolia. So there are other cancers. So in general, these are the common cancers in female patients. Let's look at the male patients. What are the common cancers? Most common cancers in males. So males, prostate is #1 in almost all parts of the USA, South America, most parts of Africa. But in India, we are getting lip oral cavity. You see that? India, the most common male patient cancer is lip and oral cavity, but lip and oral cavity cancer can also happen in female patients. They're also common in female patients. All right. So lip and oral cavity cancer is very common in India among males. In females, breast cancer and cervical cancers are very common. So which cancer should we give more focus on? We will be giving more focus on head and neck cancer, cervix cancer, and breast cancer. So with this, let's go to individual organ pathology. And today let's discuss head and neck cancer. As I told you, head and neck cancers can comprise of different parts. Let's just pull out the picture which we drew. Okay, so we'll take this picture, copy the picture. All right, so we got the picture here. So epidemiology, whenever we discuss or in under pathology, not epidemiology, we'll call it as, in pathology, there are certain headings under which we'll discuss each disease. I think I told you in the first few classes. So can Aishwarya, do you remember what are the topics under which we discuss a disease? Whenever we pick a disease, we usually discuss it under certain headings as far as pathology subject is concerned.
What, sir?
What are the headings under which we discuss a disease? When you go write about a disease, what are the major headings under which you discuss?
Oropharynx.
I'm not asking about the subsides in head and neck cancer. In any disease, whenever we talk about a disease in pathology subject, we discuss about certain things. What should we know about the disease? Anyone else?
What's the writing got? Etiology.
Yeah. So whenever we discuss about any disease, we discuss about the etiology. So we discuss about the cause, and then etiology. What else do we discuss? I told you, no, we will be in for a better understanding. I told you what is the disease, how is the disease produced, why, okay, and we can also say where. So all these things can be included. So what means, what is the disease about, what is the name of the disease, where means where is the disease happening, how means how is the disease, or why means why is the disease happening, what is the cause of the disease, how means what exactly is happening. So this etiology can be called somewhat as why is the disease happening and who is producing the disease or something, who is responsible for the disease. How it is happening, we will be reading about the pathogenesis, like accepts order which, how the disease is developing and what problems could happen in each of the organs. That's what is about how. Okay, where in the sense also is included in pathogenesis, how and where, because what organs are included, what organs are getting damaged in a particular disease will be discussed in this. So let's say tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is causes Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Pathogenesis is the bacteria goes and destroys most of the cells in the lungs, and then we get lung abscess, lung infection, inflammation, so edema. So and then we get pneumonitis. So we get an entire part of the lung, sometimes lobar pneumonia, or it could be damage of the pipes, which will be bronchopneumonia. This is how it develops. After pathogenesis, we'll talk about the clinical symptoms. What problems will the patient have? And then we can talk briefly about the treatment. But then this treatment part is not very important in pathology. We don't have to focus more on the treatment aspect. So we'll be briefly touching upon the treatment aspects. So, and then special pathological information. Any special pathology information? Is it the same inflammation that is happening that we discussed in the first general topic? Is the same thing going to happen, or is there anything unique in this particular disease? We'll have to talk about that. So let's just keep this as a major heading under which we'll be discussing all this part. So let's save it for our better understanding later. Okay, so now coming on to our specific disease here, head and neck cancer. Let's find out what is the etiology. What's the etiology of head and neck cancer? Why would cancer happen in the oral cavity, tongue? In our Indian population, we saw lip and oral cavity, buccal mucosa is number one, which is also common in our institute or department of radiation oncology. What's the most common cause? Why is this cancer happening? When we
Smoking.
Yes, smoking is the most common reason why people develop cancers in the oral cavity or all those things. So what form of smoking? Not form of smoking, rather they are smoking what? If we smoke anything, do we develop oral cancer, or do we, if we smoke only? Most commonly, what is smoked? What item is, chemical item is smoked?
Tobacco.
Tobacco, yeah. Tobacco is the item which is smoked. So which means smoking. So steam inhalation is also a form of smoking, no? You are inhaling steam. So which is just water vapor. So water vapor smoking is not injurious to health, right? So we are inhaling tobacco burn. So the smoke that is coming out of tobacco is being inhaled in our body or sometimes swallowed in our body. Smoking tobacco is bad. And in India, do they smoke? What do they? How do they take tobacco? Do they take tobacco only in the form of smoking?
No, chewing tobacco.
So which means smokeless form of tobacco. Smokeless tobacco is also common. Smokeless tobacco is just they're just chewing and then eating. So they eat it. Okay, so they chew it and they eat it. So as when they keep chewing, all the chemicals are touching the inner part of the oral cavity. So that's touching the oral cavity and it's irritating. Since majority of our Indian population is chewers. So we get a lot of buccal mucosa cancers. When too many people smoke, what is going to happen? This smoke is going to go down the entire larynx and then into the lungs. So lung cancer will be more common. So if you let's go back to the data, universal data which we saw, and then see, yeah, what's the most common cancer in the entire world? It's a prostate cancer, which is there in half of the world. So the rest of the world, what is more common? Russia, China, some parts of Africa, Europe. What is more common? Which color is more common? What do you see there? Among male
Lung
people?
cancer.
Yeah, so lung cancer. So those who are smoking are getting more prone to get lung cancer than oral cavity cancer. But it doesn't mean they will not get oral cavity cancer. They'll also get oral cavity cancer, but the lung cancer is the most common because most of the smoke goes into the lung. When lip and oral cavity is more common in India because many people keep the tobacco in their mouth while they are working and then they keep chewing the entire day. Sometimes they keep it stuck in the part of the between the teeth and the lip, so that stays for a long period of time. All right. So tobacco is the most common cause of cancer. So this cause which I'm saying is different from the infectious cause. So if I say Mycobacterium tuberculosis is the cause of tuberculosis bacteria, when it comes into our body, it most of the time it produces the infection within few days, and then within few months. But then when I say tobacco is the cause of cancer, the tobacco that comes into our body will not produce cancer today or tomorrow or within few months. When the patient or when the person takes in tobacco smoking for 5 to 10 years, only then they will develop cancer. So we cannot say the cancer is caused only by tobacco. So in this 10 years, many other problems would have happened that would have resulted in the production of cancer in the patient. So tobacco is one of the causes of cancer. Whereas Mycobacterium tuberculosis is the only cause for tuberculosis. So tuberculosis infection will never happen by any other means. It will happen only when the bacterium is coming inside the body. So that's the difference between describing the cause for an infectious disease versus describing cause for a non-communicable or non-infectious diseases like cancer. So non-infectious diseases like cancer will have a lot of causes, not even one specific, not only one specific cause. In addition to tobacco, we can also say alcohol, or sometimes they say asbestos. Sometimes people working in asbestos industry may also develop so many things. So of course, these two are not common in head and neck cancer. The head and neck cancer, the only form is this one. Recently, people have found that those who have been infected with human papilloma virus in their mouth, if the infection is there for 5 to 10 years, then they will also develop cancer. This is also one form of cause. Fine. So this is the etiology of the disease. So we have discussed etiology in brief. So now let's go to the pathogenesis. Why is this cancer developing? How is this cancer developing? So tobacco that goes into the stomach. So what is this tobacco doing? Tobacco is irritating mucosa. Mucosa means what? The inner lining of the entire mouth. That's a mucosa. It irritates the mucosa. It can irritate the mucosa of the mouth. It can irritate the mucosa of the throat, larynx, lungs, foot pipe, windpipe. Everything can be irritated. Whatever is getting irritated, then which means there is some cell damage. After cell damage, what will our body do? Whenever there is a cell damage, what will our body do? Whenever there is a cell injury, what will our body do? Nothing. Our body does nothing. Nasla, can you answer this question? Whenever a cell is injured in our body, so here we are talking about a cell that's getting injured. Let's say there is one cell on the tongue that is getting injured. The cells over here are getting injured.
Cells become tumor, color, dollar.
Yeah, cells become tumor color. That thing is called as. So that process or that system is called as inflammation. So whenever there is a damage in that part of the cell, our body tries to repair it. So that repair process is, or our body shows a response. That response is what is called as inflammation. So that because of inflammation, tumor, color, dollar, all those things is happening. There will be swelling, redness around the area, And the endpoint of that response is ultimately there will be healing. The healing can be primary healing or secondary healing. Healing by primary intention or healing by secondary intention. So that this inflammation results in free radical production. A lot of free radicals are being produced. All right. So what is free radical? Free radicals. Free radicals are highly chemically active stuffs. No. So these free radicals are also being produced during inflammation. Sometimes these free radicals will damage nearby cells if they come out of the cells, or they can damage within the cell also. What do they damage? They can damage DNA, they can damage mitochondria, they can damage Golgi complex, they can damage anything. So what is more important here in our setup is they damage DNA. When they damage DNA, then DNA repair will happen. If the DNA damage is too much, then all of the DNA cannot be repaired. So there will be some faulty DNA repair. When the faulty DNA repair, it will result in a faulty gene. And that faulty gene can one day, most of the time the cells, whenever they get injured today, they'll get repaired, the DNA, everything gets repaired, and then this mucosa becomes normal. But when the person takes in smoke tomorrow, day after tomorrow, every time he is injuring the same group of cells, no? So every time when the DNA gets repaired, there will be some mistake that will happen in the repair process. The risk of a faulty repair is around 1 in a million. 1 in a million means 1 per 10 to the power 6. All right. So 1 in a million is what is meant. So 1 fault in 1 million DNA repair. You get the idea? When there is so many times when you damage the DNA, so what's going to happen ultimately at some point of time is every 10 to the power 6 DNA that is damaged, there will be 1 faulty DNA left out, which will not be repaired properly. So, but then this is, let's say, happening in 10 to the power 6 cell is what size? What is the approximate size of 10 to the power 6 cells? Is it so small that you can't see, or is it so big that you can show it with your finger? Any idea how much this 10 to the power 6 size will look like?
A finger.
So a tip of the finger, let's say. The tip of the finger is what approximate dimension? What is the approximate dimension of the tip of the finger? Kavya?
Yes, sir.
How much would be the size of the tip of the finger in centimeters or millimeters?
In centimeters, it will be 1.5 or 2.
Okay, let's say it's simplicity sake, we'll say 1 by 1 centimeter. So 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. But whenever we talk about volume, we don't talk about only 2 dimensional. So 1 by 1 by 1 centimeter. So that means the tip of this finger is, let's probably say it is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter cube. So it's in the shape of a cube. So which means, let's say this is the tip of the finger. We are saying that this tip of the finger is equivalent to the size of 1 by 1 centimeter cube. You get it? So this is what we are actually meaning. 1 by 1 centimeter cube. This 1 centimeter is nothing but 1 cubic centimeter. No, this volume is nothing but 1 centimeter cube. 1 centimeter cube, I would have already told you how many cells are there in 1 centimeter cube. If anyone remembers that? Ubaid, do you remember how many cells are there in 1 centimeter cube? Anyone remembers any number when we talked about the number of cells that are present in 1 centimeter cube?
10 raised to 14.
10 raised to the power 9. 10 raised to the power 9. So when we talk about 10 raised to the power 6, we are actually talking 1000 times smaller than the tip of a finger. So now you can understand what is the size of this one. So which means for every this much amount of DNA damage that is happening, there is one damage that is accumulating. So this one damage that will accumulate, keep on accumulating. So every day the patient is smoking, let's say he's smoking for 10 years every day. So how many days are there? 365 days are there. So 3650 times he has damaged the one. So that means there is total of, let's say, every time, let's say, he is damaging 1 cc of cells. So 1 cc of cells are like this. I mean, there are so many cells that are damaged everywhere, no? So all along the mucosa. So put together, let's say it is 1 cc. So that means 10 to the power 9. So which means 10 to the power 9 cells are getting damaged. For every 10 to the power 6, there will be one repair. So that means 1.5 cell or 1.5 DNA damage is persistent. So this 1.5 DNA damage is persistent per day. So ultimately, we will have approximately 2,500 DNA genes or DNA or genes damaged. So 2,500 genes are getting damaged in a span of 10 years. Let me erase all these things to make it clear. So whenever there is one fault per 10 to the power 6 gene repairs, so over a 10-year period, he is going to get 2,500 abnormal. So when I say gene damage, the entire gene may not get damaged. Only one part of the gene may get damaged. Let's say that one part of the gene is getting damaged. So 2,500 parts of abnormal parts of the gene will be there. So not only a single gene, this 2,500 damage will be there in any gene which is there in any of the chromosomes. So one damage might be here, one damage might be here, another damage might be here, and then another damage can be here. So like this 2,500 different parts of the chromosomes might have been damaged. Fine. Now you can understand as many years the person keeps smoking, there will be so many number of DNA damages that will be accumulating in all the cells all along the mucosa, anywhere along the mucosa. And if he is chewing, then most of the damage will be there in the oral cavity. If he is smoking, then most of the damage will be there in the throat or in the lungs, down in the lungs. All right. So this is what is responsible for ultimately one persistent DNA damage. If it is activating an oncogene, that is where the problem is. So oncogene means a gene that is responsible for growth of the cell. So if it is permanently activated, when the damage is activating this gene, then we will have trouble. So this will result in cancer. This will develop in cancer. This is how we are expecting the development of cancer when a person is smoking. All right. So this is what is pathogenesis. All right. So whenever we say pathogenesis, what we mean basically is nothing but we mean that a person by smoking is slowly developing a lot of DNA damages. Ultimately, he develops a cancer. And he develops cancer in the head and neck region because the damage, cell damage is mostly in the oral mucosa region. That's why he's developing oral cavity cancer. All right. So this is about pathogenesis. Coming on to the next part, I think we have only 1 minute left out. So we can wrap up with the clinical symptoms. Clinical symptoms will be whenever there is a damage, there will be an ulcer. It can be an ulcer, or there can be local pain, or there can be swelling. Because cancer is developed there, so that cancer cell will keep growing. It will keep growing. So they have a big, small lump also sometimes, which may not be palpable. If it is coming outside of the tongue or the mouth, then we will see outside in the sense, outside the surface. Then we'll see ulcer. So these are the problems with. So I think we'll have to connect back with another link in case if this cuts out. So I will reactivate the same link if it's cutting out. Fine. So ulcer, pain, swelling, so all these things can happen in the patient. But most of the times, cancers do not produce pain early. Only when they grow very big, they will get.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I didn't hear any of you. Can you say again? Do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So you can hear me, fine. All right. Okay, so I've just put up two pictures just to show you. So there is a small swelling in this. Let me zoom it for you. So this is a normal tongue. The tongue is being pulled out. There is one small growth you see sitting coming out of the away. What do we say? Out of the tongue surface, right? That part is what is cancer. So this time it can be normal structure also. Only after biopsy we confirm it as cancer. So in this case it is a cancer. So this is a common. This photo is shown to give you an idea what are the problems that a patient might have. So this patient might have a ulcer. So ulcer in the sense the normal tongue surface is lost. So there is something coming out from within the tongue that is destroying the surface. So that's called as an ulcer. Swelling, because it's obviously a swelling. So there is something that is going outside the surface area. Lump in the sense sometimes the patient can feel something is sitting inside the tongue or sitting on the top of the tongue. So you might say that there is a swelling on the top of the tongue. So you might feel it as a lump. And very rarely it can produce pain. Especially pain is produced only when the nerves are damaged. So when the nerves nearby are getting damaged, then we'll have pain, or when there is inflammation around, patient will have pain. What else can we expect in this patient? If there is, if let's say this swelling is quite big. So let's say it's very big, like occupying the half of the tongue. What problem can he have? Can just speculate such problems. Can anyone tell me what kind of problems he might have? Anyone? No one? No one has an idea?
Can't speak properly.
Yeah, when he is munching his food.
Swallowing.
Yeah, when he is munching his food, especially when you're eating big chunks of meat or fish, if you're a non-vegetarian, or if you're eating big, let's say, a fruit or something, you might tend to bite your mass. So you can get tongue bite. At the same time, when you're swallowing, trying to swallow it, then this mass, if it is big, it will block the food going in. So there will be some difficulty in swallowing. So this is a functional problem. So which means the function of the tongue is affected. Difficulty in mastication. Mastication means munching our food inside the mouth. Mastication, and then difficulty in swallowing. All right. So this patient will have difficulty in these two because of the tongue. Obviously, when we talk about head and neck cancer, we are talking about the entire throat, everywhere. No, so swallowing. In the nose, he will have nasal discharge. Sometimes he can have nasal discharge, or in the mouth itself, he can have bleeding from this particular region. So there can be oral bleeding. Oral bleeding means whenever it bleeds from the tongue or from the teeth, any area, the patient will only say there is some bleeding in his mouth. So these are the different problems which can have. So, and if the same thing happens in the throat, again there will be swallowing problem. And if it is happening in the space where the pathway divides into a windpipe and as well as a foot pipe. So which means if it is happening in the hypopharynx, what are the common complaints? The growth can obstruct the food flowing down into the foot pipe. So instead, what will happen? The food will try to enter the windpipe. So then he will have a reflex cough. Patient may have problems with coughing, and that cough is because of taking in food or liquid, whatever you're taking in your mouth, those particles are trying to enter into the windpipe. So that condition is called as aspiration. Patient can have respirated aspiration. Aspiration is nothing but solid or liquid materials in the mouth going into the respiratory windpipe rather than into the foot pipe. So that will initiate a coughing action in our body. That's called aspiration. So you might aspirate his food. The aspirate is food or drinks, water or anything. So that problem can repeatedly happen. These are the common problems. Now let's finally come back. Let me just expand this one so that we can cover everything in the same page. All right. The final thing is treatment. So what treatment options can we offer? Logically, what should we do? There is a cancer sitting in the tongue. What should we do to treat the condition? It is producing a lot of problems for him. He's not able to eat, or she is not able to speak properly because the tongue. Yeah, speaking is also one issue, difficulty in mastication and articulation. Articulation is producing speech by moving your tongue, lip, or your throat, all those things. So you do a proper pronunciation according. All right. Okay. So what kind of treatment should you offer to him? Let's ask Ms. Sanusia.
Surgery.
Yes. So we need to remove the tumor. But if you remove this tumor is somewhere in the back of the tongue, no? So which means the tumor is probably sitting somewhere around here. No, it is sitting somewhere around in this region. So let's say the surgeon wants to cut the tumor, and if he wants to cut it, then he will have to cut some extra tissue. So he will cut this entire tongue out. What will happen if you cut this entire tongue? I'll tell you what will happen. When you remove this entire part of the tongue, this part of the tongue is responsible also for blocking this food going into this one. So what will happen after you remove the tongue, you will not be able to block the food going into the pipe. So patient will, after surgery, will have repeated aspiration. The food, whenever he puts into the mouth, it goes into the windpipe and he starts coughing. So he's very scared to take in the food at all. So this problem will be very much so and so that if he doesn't take food for 1 or 2 days, then he'll become very weak and he can even die because of not able to take food properly. So this is a major problem. So to bypass this problem, what can we do? Sometimes, let's say this is the patient's body that is going down. So this is thorax and here you have stomach. So what they do usually is they put in a small pipe and that goes directly into the stomach. So the patient will be asked to take food into this pipe. So obviously he cannot take solid chunks, no, he can only take fluid stuff into this pipe. So this is a food pipe that is inserted to avoid this problem. But then an alternative option is available. Instead of removing the entire tongue, you can also shoot radiation into this one. So when you shoot radiation into the tongue, that will also kill the cancer slowly. But then it has got the advantage of not damaging the entire tongue. Damaging the entire tongue in the sense the physical part of the tongue will still be present. So patient may be able to continue to block the food particle enter into the food pipe. So which means the functional part of the tongue is not lost when you are shooting radiation. So if you shoot radiation into this, it can kill the cancer cell. At the same time, it will not remove the entire tongue. The tongue will still be present. So that's the advantage of using radiation in this one. So in effect, we can say, so if the tumor is sitting probably in the very tip of the tongue, or if it is sitting on the lip or any other areas where by removing the tumor, supposing the cancer is sitting here, cancer is sitting here, or even the cancer is sitting somewhere in the nose region. These cancers can be removed by surgery. You can remove this and then put a plastic nose so that the patient doesn't feel bad. So the lip also can be removed and then we can put in some extra tissues, like supposing in the entire face, if one part of the lip is being removed, then they will try to take some skin from the other part of the neck and then come and fill it here so that the patient doesn't have a large open mouth. So his mouth may be looking like this. If this part is what the tumor is, then the surgeon will remove this entire upper part and then ultimately his mouth will be looking like this after it's removed. So it become a bigger mouth. So to fill this gap, we will take skin from the neck and that skin will be pulled and filled up here. So ultimately the mouth opening is maintained. So this is called plastic surgery. So plastic surgeon will try to give shape so that the original face is retained. So the cancer surgeon will remove the tumor and the plastic surgeon will come and help. Sometimes the cancer surgeon himself can do the plastic surgery and try to make the mouth look normal. All right. So we don't have to go into these details. Let's just remember that the options for treatment are surgery. So what do they do surgery? They do wide excision. Wide excision, why? Because sometimes, you know, all this, whatever you see, if you remove, then there will be some microscopic cells which are not visible here. They might be sitting in a little away from the original mass. So if you remove only the tumor, that cells will start growing back after surgery, and then again you'll have a huge mass sitting there. So whatever surgery you have done becomes waste. That's why you always remove 1 centimeter extra tissue, so that all that cells, invisible cells, are also removed. So wide excision of the local tumor, or we can also give radiotherapy, or sometimes both can be offered. Both surgery, the short form, you should not use this in the examination, just for our easier understanding. I'm trying to use this one. All right. So both surgery and this thing. Sometimes what they do is to enhance the effect of radiation. But we can also, let me just write it up here. Okay. So to enhance the effect of radiation, we can add some drugs. The drugs are commonly called as chemotherapy drugs. All right. So, or both RT and surgery. All right. Now you get surgery, you get radiotherapy. Let's say plus or minus, that becomes easier. Plus or minus. All right. Plus or minus chemotherapy or both. Fine. These are the treatment options usually available for cancer. In general, you can say for most cancers, if it is easily removable site, then we can remove removable site in the sense after removing there should not be any major problem. Major problem in the sense he is not be having major problems in eating, major problems in breathing, major problems in his other organ functions. If it doesn't have any of these things, we can go ahead and remove that tumor. But if you expect some problems like this, it is better to remove kill the cancer with radiation than with surgery, right? So this is one. I think we have completely discussed about the head and neck cancers today. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.